Denzel walks across the wasteland like a badass, keffiyeh around his neck. He eats post-apocalyptic cat. He steals Doc Martens from the dead, and he doesn't fucking play. The film is, you guessed it, The Book of Eli, RickRamos. What say you?
What say I? I say that this is, as I was watching this last night, and I haven't seen it in probably 15 years since it first came out. Maybe I bought it, added it to my collection, and watched it one more time after that. But I felt really bad when the film was over, only because I realized how much we have missed out on additional Hughes Brothers films. I think the Hughes Brothers are great filmmakers, and well, maybe not great filmmakers, but you know, the superlative being what it is. It just, I think, I think they did some really, really incredible films, visually incredible, but also the ideas they were tackling from their first film, Menace to Society, through From Hell, the look at Jack the Ripper, and finally this film. I haven't seen anything else that they've done except for Dead Presidents, and they've done, I guess, a documentary, American Pimp, that you and I both really like. But watching this film, I was just like, God damn, the visuals, the performances, and the story, the narrative that's being tackled here. I would have loved to see these two guys do a lot more work. And I feel that maybe because something that they did didn't resonate with audiences, or the fact that they were a duo, or maybe there was I don't know the full backstory of the projects that they did. I don't know if they were a problem and were problems for the studio, but what you see on screen, for me, is loads better than anybody else putting out films. I think they were great filmmakers that never really got their just due, that never really got an opportunity, or at least the opportunities that they had never endeared themselves to the studios, and thus there were no further opportunities for them. I mean, watching this last night, I kind of felt like we as a movie-going audience really missed out. That's what I say.
It's crazy to think, we've been talking about this, how we're always talking about how cinema's changing.
Yeah. That was the conversation right before this episode. Yeah,
that was the pre-podcast podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting older, all that bullshit. We're talking about how things fucking suck. Everything is getting worse. Things were better before. I was watching this last night as well.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the question, what's your relationship to this film?
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the theater. Fun. I dug it for what it was.
Yeah. But it was kind of forgettable at that moment. For me, at least. Was it for you? But it was fun.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I was gonna keep revisiting, because it's been fucking forever since I've seen it. And then I watched it last night, and I was like, "Oh shit!" This is a good time. It's a fun film. It's got the road vibe, but without the kid, so that helps. He travels on foot, so it's somewhat got a Mad Maxian kind of in that tradition of Mad Max. He's basically, and I mean, this is gonna. The question is, it's a game that the film itself plays with the viewer. It's like, the element of sight. And in that sense, you've got this post-apocalyptic Zatoichi kind of character. If you assume that he's blind, and then it's got the question of like, well, based on what happens in the film, and we'll get into that, is he fucking blind? And then to go back and like look at it and kind of fuck with it in your head as you watch it. That for people like me, who I don't know if it's just curiosity or neurodivergence, it's fun, you know. Gary Oldman, he looks like he's having fun in the film.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It's got Tom Waits,
yeah,
in this little cameo, and I'm like, where's that fucking little shop where I can go get, I don't know what, because I don't really have gadgets, but where can I take my gadgets for Tom Waits to fucking, like, fuck with them? That's cool. Mila Kunis, who's, for the most part, kind of a pretty face in this film.
Yeah. But I think she's good.
She holds it, yeah.
She holds it because you see her slowly start to... If you take the empathetic approach and you see a world that has degenerated to tribal gangs, violence, a lack of respect for humanity and individuals, and you know, a desire to just take. And you see, she really does sell a certain level of innocence and parental love for the Denzel character. And I thought she's, you know, she's not a great actress, but she holds her own in the scenes that she has with him, and she doesn't seem afraid of him. And I as I was watching, I was like, she's pretty fucking good in this.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I really, and in a weird way, it's like she's kind of our, she's kind of like the audience stand-in, because you're relating to her character and watching. I mean, it's an old narrative trope where you give the audience a character that they can relate to and watch the movie through, experience the movie through, and you're watching Denzel, this character, this righteous man walking through the desert, 30 years of protecting a book, the knowledge, the power of the book, and you see the Wasteland and how life has become less than what we would know. And he's one of the few people that understands it and is dedicated to at least saving one aspect of it. You know, as I watched this movie, the conflictions of my own religious views popped up. I mean, there's no way. I don't think you can. This is the kind of movie, yeah, you know, of course, this is the kind of movie that as you watch it, it's going to raise questions within you. And that's why it's my favorite kind of movie, because it forces you to examine certain things. And although it doesn't make me a believer, what I do find fascinating about it is the dedication to a belief. So, whereas the younger me might have said, "Oh, fuck this. He's protecting something that is bullshit."
Yeah.
The 50-year-old me is now looking at it as from the perspective of a man who believes in the goodness of a thing and is willing to do anything in his power to protect that. And that transcends whatever prejudices I have going into the movie. So I you know what, the movie wins points critically from my perspective, in that it's able to force me to overlook my own personal beliefs.
I mean, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
For on this podcast, watch this with Rick Ramos. For Rick Ramos to say that something got him to get past his beliefs, is I'm being a dick, but at the same time, it's true. What I like about that aspect of it is, given my particular kind of background or whatever, my particular set of skills, the film does a good job at having this Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah.
What's the name of that? What's that term for
the MacGuffin?
What kind of
the Hitchcock?
Yes, to have
the MacGuffin.
This MacGuffin, this thing that everyone's after, this central piece. It's this mysterious thing.
Mm-hmm.
The film does a great job at kind of not only pitting the protagonist and the antagonist against each other based on their worldviews, but how their worldviews connect to this MacGuffin, to this Maltese Falcon, to this briefcase, to this book. Carnegie is, his name is Carnegie
for a reason. Yeah, that's that a lot of people are going to miss that. So why don't you break that down?
Scumbag, fucking well, not scumbag, but it's fucking billionaire, fucking industrialist Robert Barron,
Andrew Carnegie. Yes,
Andrew Carnegie, who, at least different from the Robert Barons of today, in today's Gilded Age, there was this idea of the noblesse oblige. It's kind of a version of the white man's burden. It's this the obligation of the nobility to give back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna fucking get super rich, more rich than all of you combined, but I'm gonna build a park, or I'm going to create some space, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to have a foundation, and blah, blah. So the idea of amassing wealth and power, this Gary Oldman character, Carnegie, he's named after that guy. We first see him, he's reading a book on Mussolini, the fascist fucking dictator. He's a saloon boss. So very Deadwood.
Yeah. Very
style. Right. I mean, not as charismatic as Al Swearingen, but
could be. Yeah.
Not as charismatic as Al Swearingen. But it's one of these things where it's in the style of David Milch. It's how do you establish a society that you yourself are trying to build, and you have these power struggles in the establishment of it, and you're an outlaw, but now you're trying to create law out of this thing that you're exploiting, and Wild West expansion. So there's that. He plays chess. That's very, I'm moving the pawns around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's literate. He remembers the time before this apocalyptic war or whatever. And he's after the book, and the book that he's after is the Bible. And why is he after the Bible? He's after the Bible because he sees it as a source of because of its language, it'll provide a higher level of motivation, a deeper level of motivation to the people who read it and who become devoted to it. And he believes in using religion and using the Bible as a tool, as a weapon to control basically the hearts and minds of the people. And so that's his ultimate weapon. If I can get a hold of the Bible, then I can teach people, because I can read. They can't read it. I can read it, and I can quote it. And later on, we'll find out that it's the King James version of the Bible. So this fucking early 17th century, poetic as hell book that standardized fucking like English language Protestant views of the Bible. Like that's in the Protestant world in English, the King James version is it, and it became it, and it was printing, and it was all this stuff that was happening. And Carnegie, he's not interested in this other stack of books. He's not interested in the Diary of Anne Frank. He's not interested in Oprah Winfrey fucking magazine. He's not interested in the Da Vinci Code. He's interested in the Bible for that purpose. Whereas Denzel, the protagonist, he is, again, like I said, he's like the Zatoichi. He's like this Ronin style fucking Western samurai. He's like kind of like the Equalizer that he'll end up playing later. He lives by this moral code. He quotes the Bible early in the film. You see him, he's constantly, every night he reads this book that he has, which turns out that he has a copy. He has the only copy of the Bible. For him, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, the way that the film really does a good job of having the MacGuffin and having these different characters kind of like working around this MacGuffin in terms of what it means to them. For him, it's not about using the Bible as a tool of control. It's about primarily a source of personal solace. It gives his life meaning. He's able to connect with a higher source through that book. He's able to conduct himself and strengthen himself and basically like quench his soul through his relationship with the higher source through that book. It's religion as solace. It's as inner strength. And when he prays at a certain point with Mila Kunis' character, it becomes more than something personal, because now it's interpersonal. Now he's connecting with that social dimension of religion, which is how it was created to begin with, because it's culture. And so when he prays, he's like, "Give me your hands," and he's teaching her now a cultural practice. And he never tells her, "This is what you have to do. If you don't do this before we eat, you're gonna go to hell. You're shit. You're a piece of shit." But he's not trying to convert. He's not doing any of that. He's kind of teaching her a cultural practice, and then what does she do? She, for some reason, and this raises fucking red flags in Gary Oldman's character, is with her blind mother. They're about to eat, and she's like, "Give me your hand," and she prays before they eat. And then she had only heard it one time, so she's searching for this point of closure, this period to add to the prayer. And Gary Oldman's character turns around and he says, "Amen." He's like, "That's the word you're looking for, amen." And he's basically like, "Where the fuck did you hear this? Like, you're not supposed to know that." So now she's using it without even knowing. Now she's picked up on this cultural practice, and it did something for her to have this moment before you eat to give some kind of thanks. So it shows the memetics. The meme, obviously, there's memes like on your phone. But the idea of ideas as these kind of viral nuggets that get passed around organically. So the way that ideas spread. So she's already picked it up, and she's now imitating it. She's now doing it. So to her, it's also personal, but it's interpersonal as well. And then by the end, I'm jumping around, but by the end of the film, Malcolm McDowell, he has a cameo. His perspective on the book is not. It's not. And this goes back to like the way I was trying to get people who listen to this show to think about religion. And a lot of times when it comes up, it's like, I talked about this. If you're taking like a religious studies 101, and I'm talking about religious studies as a field, which is the historical study of religion in a university setting that isn't pushy. It's not from perspective of, it's not a religious school. I'm talking about a historical, analytical study of religion. And which also means it's not fucking, I belong to the skeptic society and I'm going to fucking try to like build a career out of like debunking. That's a separate thing. This is looking at shit as a historical artifact. So Malcolm McDowell is preserving humanity's legacy and trying to rebuild. And he by the end, and we'll get into it once we talk about basically what happens. He wants this book because of its importance in human history for a number of cultural, religious, literary, all these different reasons. And so it's neither from the perspective of pretend we're walking, or the average person is walking in because they have to take this elective or whatever, and they're taking a religious studies 101 class, and you're going to have people who are majors, and then you have these people who are just there to take the class. Some of them are like, man, religion is bullshit, like, blah, blah, blah. Then other people are like, I'm fucking insulted because, like, I am religious, but what I don't understand, and I've seen this happen, where it's like, if it's like an Egyptian Christian is like, I don't like the way that Egyptian Muslims, blah, blah, or it gets like really personal and really about like their fucking experience, and which is valid, but at the same time, we're talking about like zoom way the fuck out. We're talking about world history now. And then you might have someone like, oh, I just decided to take this class because I'm searching for something. So all these people are looking at it with these biases and these perspectives, and the professor is just trying to get everyone to kind of set your personal beliefs aside for now. If you're against it, set that aside. If you're for it, set that aside. It's kind of like looking at, I don't care if you're a cat person, we're going to talk about cats, and we're going to talk about how, I don't care if you're allergic to cats, we're going to talk about how cats play a role in fucking human civilization from the Egyptian period to the current day. And we're going to talk about what all of that means, and why do you think black cats are this, and why is this and this and this. And it's just looking at it more from that zoomed out perspective. So coming back to the film and how it used this book and religion more broadly, it's very rare that you're going to see specifically religion looked at in such a way where you can see that there are these different ways that it can be used. The same way that you can have other. It's as if you were to have music in a film, and one character is trying to make people sick with music. Someone else is trying to heal someone with music. Someone else is just kind of like this. These are just fucking like sound waves. You know what I mean? Like it's
Sure.
It's the perspectivism about it that's really interesting. And if you zoom out and look at that, you can say, well, shit, like it's all of these things. It is a fucking tool and a weapon, and it is a fucking thing of personal solace, and it is a cultural practice that you can have with someone. Oh, and it is a fucking part of the human legacy that deserves its place on the bookshelf of fucking humanity. And goddamn, like, okay, if it wasn't this, it would be something else, because it's really about a film about value and values, like what's valuable, but also what are your values. And obviously you've got the basics, what is it, like Maslow's fucking, the hierarchy of needs, like you have your fucking need, your food, shelter, water, all that shit. But at the same time, it's like, well, human beings also need connection to other human beings, for the most part. They also need meaning. We use language. That's only a small fraction of our communication, but it's so important. And the idea of like these things that we take for granted, including the written word, now post fucking writing, not post writing, but like already living in the world of after fucking written language, the move from oral tradition to written, like ideas can last so much longer, and they can go so much wider if they're written down and carry something. Or if you can obviously fucking like text it or email it across fucking the galaxy. So this little post-apocalyptic Mad Mask Zatoichi fucking samurai movie with Denzel really becomes what post-apocalyptic movies are good at, which is like, don't take your water for granted. But in a more deep level, it touches on like how do human beings start to create like culture, but also like what is their sense of luxury, which is also a human trait. So it's cool, and it's cool to hear that someone with a definite hard position on something like religion, which is one of those things that people have definite and hard positions on, but like you specifically, that you would be like, it got me to see other perspectives outside of like my own, because I could see these characters vying for it in different ways, in the book specifically. So that's cool.
I mean, there's a lot to unwrap here. There's a lot, you can definitely look at, in certain ways, Denzel's character, Eli, and his blind devotion. But even in that film, there's a moment where he says, I was so focused on protecting the book that I forgot to pay attention to what the book was teaching me. And I'm not the first, but I'm definitely in the tribe of people who say, yeah, there may be good things in the book, but there's a great deal of horrible things in the book. But I like to look at it from the historical perspective of the importance of the Bible in our culture, regardless of your religious beliefs, whether you're devout and you believe you're a Christian, you're a Jew, you're a Muslim, or you're an atheist. I think it'd be impossible, if you were looking at it realistically and if you were at least a reasonable person, it would be impossible to underestimate the importance of the Bible in culture. And it's really interesting because 2 weeks ago I started reading the Bible, and I'm reading it, and I read it I went into it with this attitude where I'm going to write down all the shit that I disagree with, and I'm not a believer. I don't think I'll ever be a believer. I don't think you either believe or you don't believe. But as I read some of this, there's a lot to it that I find ridiculous. But then there are other elements to it that I think I can see where people would build a belief system onto this. I can understand why people, as intelligent beings and as intelligent creatures that walk this earth, we're looking for answers. We're looking for something to make sense of all of this. I don't know if the Bible is the thing that does that. It certainly isn't the thing that does it for me. But one of the great things about narrative storytelling in general, is being able to walk in another person's shoes, walk in their path, and understand what it is that drives them. And this film does it twofold, because in interviews that I've read, that I've watched with the Hughes brothers, they're not pushing a religious film. Their attitude is, this is not a religious film. It's like you're saying, this is a MacGuffin. Denzel, the actor, the man portraying Eli, who was also an executive, a producer on this film, is more of a spiritual man. He talks about it in interviews. He talks about it as being an important aspect of his life. And it figures in to the character. So there's it's interesting to watch the spiritual, some might say political, and human attitudes that you have as an artist, and how they manifest themselves in the art.
Mm-hmm.
I find this fascinating, that there's a passion. And when I watched this movie right here, as I was watching it last night, I did realize Denzel Washington belongs to the very small group of actors who have never given a bad performance. They might have been in films that were not as good as others, but Meryl Streep, Daniel Day-Lewis, Robert Duvall, and Denzel Washington have never given bad performances. I don't think I've ever seen anything where it was like, oh, get the fuck out of here. This is horrible. Why? Why did he make that choice? Everything is grounded in a truth. And regardless of my beliefs, as I watched this film, I was really taken in by the dedication to the story that was being told, the protection of the character, and I think the passion that Denzel Washington was trying to portray. It really does come out. I think there's a dedication here that I'm not sure too many other actors would have been able to have achieved with this. I feel like this is the work of a true believer, and there's a part of me that really admires his dedication to that and creating something. I mean, this is no doubt a violent film, but it's also a violent world, and it's a world that could use this. This is like one of the few times that I've ever seen. Typically, I would say that the Bible is a tool, has been a tool more often than not, to push push violence, subjugating people, keeping those in their place. And there's definitely a part of me that doesn't like the idea of cherry picking the good parts that make the book itself palatable. But the belief system of being a good, decent person, and as I walk through the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for God is my shepherd. There is something poetic and beautiful about the idea of walking through this life, and what I take from that is having a purpose, understanding the adversity that you're up against, and yet still pushing forward to achieve a goal, to reach for decency. I know a lot of times people who don't listen to this podcast would probably be very dismissive of both you and I in our takeaway from some of these films. The attitude is usually going to be, it's just a fucking movie. Well, to some degree, yeah, it's just a fucking movie. But art is more than that. Art really speaks to the foundation of who we are and what we believe. This isn't going to be a movie that's going to make me go to church next week, but it is something that maybe I can see, maybe I can put aside my cynicism and actually listen to the security that something like this brings to a person. At the very least, it makes me more interested in human beings. It makes me more interested in what drives us and what keeps us, in some ways, caring about each other. I don't like to believe that. I don't like the idea that some people have said that if we don't have religion, or if you don't have the Bible, then society would fall apart. Because where would we get our morality? You've heard that argument many times, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I studied religion.
Yeah, you studied it.
And like the Bible, societies have existed without the Bible,
yeah,
for sure. The idea in this film is that Gary Oldman's character is after this book, and Denzel's character has the book.
Yeah.
And Denzel is traveling westward, carrying this book.
30 years.
30 years.
30 winters, yeah.
And Gary Oldman, at one point, because that's conflict in a story, he comes against Denzel, and eventually he gets a hold of the book. And Denzel is injured, and Mila Kunis' character is Solara is taking him west, even though he no longer has the book. And Gary Oldman's character of Carnegie gets back to his place, to his desk, and he has Tom Waits' character unlock the clamp on this book. And he's excited to see, his weapon. And he's flipping the pages. He's like, no, it can't be.
It's a Twilight Zone moment almost. It's almost
Yeah.
almost Burgess Meredith breaking the glasses. It's a great little moment.
And it's
It's not
fucking
fair.
Braille.
It's not fair. It's Braille. It's fucking Braille.
It's Braille.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most people who are listening to this know what fucking Braille is, but if you don't, use DuckDuckGo to fucking not get tracked, and go search it. Braille is a writing system for the blind. And he can't fucking read Braille. So then he calls in his blind sex slave, Jennifer Beals character, and he's like, read it. But she's like, it's been so long I can't. So he's done all this shit, and she points it out to him. He's fucking sacrificed all his fucking goons. He's been shot, and now she can smell his leg. It's infected, and he's feverish. And the aspect of him being feverish over this thing is such a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
And how his greed for power, his hunger for this book has infected him. And because he has only the most basic level of sight, which is he can actually just see, but he doesn't have like vision. He doesn't have deep sight. He doesn't have insight. So he can't. This book is of no use to him. And even if it were, his goons are all dead, and everyone else is tearing up his bar, and he's gonna die. Whereas Denzel doesn't have the book, but he's traveling west. And finally he gets to this fucking stronghold on Alcatraz Island. And he says, I'm carrying a King James Bible. But you're watching the movie, and if you're like, wait, oh shit, he has another copy somewhere, right? It's in his backpack. It's a secret compartment in his backpack. And Malcolm McDowell's character is like, how is it? And he's like, Denzel's like, it's a little beat up, but it'll do the job, which is funny. And he tells Malcolm McDowell, get a pen and a paper, motherfucker, and a lot of time. And then you realize he's memorized it, which, I mean, that's fucking insane. There are people who have memorized the Quran,
mm-hmm.
which is also insane. But the thing is that it's written, it's poetry. It's not poetry because it wasn't designed as poetry. Whether you believe it to be of divine origin or not, its primary purpose was not, I'm going to write a poem. Its primary purpose was to be composed as a religious revelation. So again, regardless of what anyone believes about it, that's not what its purpose was. But it's in that form. So it's easier to learn because it has that element to it where you can memorize it by reciting it and repeating it. Although there are poetic elements in certain aspects of the King James Bible, it's an anthology of Jewish and Christian religious tradition for thousands of years. It doesn't have that meter. It doesn't have that flow. So it would be a hell of a lot harder to memorize. And it's like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of words. But Denzel's character, he is the book. And I mean, I don't know why Malcolm McDowell wouldn't fucking use a typewriter. An old school fucking typewriter, but at the same time, it's cool that it's by hand.
Yeah.
Because there's something to that, to being the scribe, to being someone who writes like that by scratching words, scratching symbols and letters on a surface. And Denzel, as he's dying over the course of however long, recites this book, which later gets printed, and then he dies. He is the book. And in that sense, it reflects back on what you said about, like, you may not be interested in religion in terms of, like, as a personal, like, system of belief or a cultural practice or whatever, but you're interested in humans, human beings. And in that sense, it's like he is he is a stand-in for our human practice of religion itself, which is to say that he had some kind of inclination towards something outside of himself that was transcendent. And he engaged with that and he followed it. And so when Mila Kunis' character is like, so you fucking, in so many words, she's like, you heard a fucking voice inside you and you did stuff according to that. And he's like, yes. That is like human being 101. And he had these beliefs that he himself did not always live by. And he was a violent person, but he was also a good person. And he was capable of committing atrocities, but at the same time, he was capable of the most altruistic, generous, good-hearted, heroic behavior. And in the same way that aspects of culture any given culture seem bizarre, pointless, unsettling, beautiful, exotic, fill in the blank. That's fucking like every individual that you know is going to have elements of that. Every culture is going to have elements of that. And it's just the complexity of not only the things that human beings create, like religion, but also like who we are. We're animals, but we also have this sense of wanting to transcend our animalistic like tendencies and to try to elevate ourselves to the heavens, to whatever. So it's again, in this little movie that you can just watch as it's just a fucking movie. It's just about, I just want to see Denzel fuck shit up. I just want to see.
And he does that. So yeah, it delivers on that.
Yeah, it sure does.
Beautifully. It delivers beautifully on that.
Yeah. But at the same time, it touches on all of these other things that we're capable of. And it speaks to, like, when people recognize that, and that's such one of the greatest things about, like, reading is a version of that. Reading is a version of traveling. Eating different cultural foods is a version of that. Listening to different types of music is a version of that. Watching different films from around the world is a version of that.
Most definitely.
But, like, if you travel or you go to, like, these World Heritage sites, these UNESCO World Heritage sites, like, they exist because a council of people have said, this place represents something unique and important to not only Mexico or Egypt or India or England or Spain or whatever, and just our shared humanness and just life on Earth itself, the things that we've created. Because and there are also like, there are tangible ones and there are intangible ones. So like the pyramids, whether they're in Guatemala or Mexico or Egypt or wherever, Stonehenge, shit like that, that's something that human beings did. And even if it was built by slaves and it represents on some level exploitation, whatever, it's like, fuck, like human beings did this. And then there are intangible ones, like something like flamenco. It's a cultural heritage that is not an actual material thing, but it's a thing that exists still. And it's intangible. And it's like, you look at our history, you look at fucking all these different, you can go and look at all these UNESCO heritage site places, the lists of things, intangible, tangible, and it's just like, wow, like, that's what's so fascinating about history. That's what's so fascinating about even the aspect of what you opened with when you're talking about the Hughes brothers, and think about how hard it is to find some of their movies. Think about how American Pimp, as fucked up the subject matter is, but as good as a movie as it is, and as good as the editing is and the soundtrack, etc. We've done an episode on that. But the idea, like, fuck, like, it's really hard to find a copy of that, like a physical copy, or even to stream it. And look at your house. Your place is a shrine to fucking cinema. Like, why is that? Why do you fucking gather all of these movies? Why do people sit in to the degree that they do still to this day, why do they congregate in these dark rooms in front of a screen and agree, not so much anymore, but agree to not talk and not make noise and not turn on phones, ideally, and sit for 2 hours in silence while someone else's, this group of hundreds of, if not thousands of people, some project that they made costing millions of dollars, like, to just be shown in front of them at however many, like, flickers per second. And we all do that, not only to be entertained, but also to be moved and to be, like, there's something, if aliens were to land, or not land, or however, whatever, but you were to tell aliens, oh, human beings used to congregate in these dark rooms in front of screens, and they would all share the same vision that would be projected onto the screen so that they could watch it, and from that thing they would get meaning and story and mythology and heroes and villains and descriptions of good and evil and blah blah. These aliens would say, like, oh, this must be some human religion. At some point that would come up, that they'd say, then they would pay. Interesting that these humans would pay to go sit and do that as part of their religion, but they would pay. And then they would come up with theories as to why they would pay. Why did humans pay to do this? Why did they do this? Oh, well, it may have started maybe this religion started as a form of entertainment. Or maybe it started as a religion and it became nothing more than a form of entertainment. They would have all these theories about it. In the same way that we come up with all these fucking theories about what so-called, like, what scholars, because religion to a certain degree, Jonathan Z. Smith, what we call religion, like, just in certain cultures just not too long ago, just called life. It's an artificial term used in a field of study. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, all of that humanity, all of that so-called good and evil is all contained within Denzel's character. What would Gary Oldman's character have been had he been a good person? He could have been this fucking like professor, or he could have been some kind of like potentially a preacher, whatever. But he could have been someone who would share all of his ideas with other people. Obviously, in a post-apocalyptic world, it doesn't that doesn't make for an interesting story. And in order to get to the post-apocalyptic world, people had to potentially have died because of religion to begin with, and then that's why all these religious books were destroyed. But the thing is, like, if you were to get rid of religion today, tomorrow it would come back, or in some form.
Yeah,
that's what we do. That's one of the things we do. We kill each other. We try to make our food taste good. We tell stories. We're sexual. We fantasize, and we look at the sky. You know what I mean? And we think about deeper things. Cave people used to bury people and put fucking flowers. You know what I mean? So it's a deep movie, but it can also just be a fun movie. If you only want to have like a fast food experience with this film, you most certainly can.
Mm-hmm. It's all there. The action, interesting camera work. It has moments of levity. It has an over-the-top performance by Gary Oldman, although Gary Oldman's one of the few actors that you can hire to go balls out, and he still I don't know how the fuck he does it, but he still, whether it's Drexel or the cop in Leon or this film,
mm-hmm.
He goes over the top and yet retains a level of humanity that makes the character honest and true. In some cases, it's ridiculous, but it's still there's validity there. If you watch him in True Romance, it's somewhat of a comical performance, but at the same time, this is a scary fucking dude that you can imagine is out there. Leon.
I mean, look at his career.
Yeah, I mean basically that's. I mean, this is one of the few guys that you go to Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman can't go too far. He makes it real. I don't know how the fuck he does it. He's one of the great actors that the cinema has ever produced. He's done incredible work because I think the honesty of the performance is so important to him that there needs to be some kind of purpose. It's not just. I'm sure he's collected a paycheck. But I think even when doing so, the Batman movies, goddamn is he good. He brings a level of humanity to Chief Gordon that you want to believe exists in this world. If you watch him in State of Grace,
mm-hmm.
he's frightening. We were talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula earlier before the podcast. He brings a humanity to that character. That's a Dracula. That's a Count Dracula that is not. I don't know if the longing and the love that he conveys in that film is seen anywhere else, whether Bella or Christopher Lee or any of the other countless. This is a man who is searching for purpose.
Yeah,
and
seeing me, he tells it.
Oh yeah, and in this guy. This is a character who, to use a phrase of a TV, this guy who is broke bad. I can see that this is a character that might have been a good man at one point. There's something in Oldman that is honest and true, and there is a goodness. And this character, we've talked a little bit in the past about, we talked last week about Brian Cox in LIE, and how it would have been very simple for him to play the Big John character as a monster. But that actually does a disservice to those people who exist in real life, and the horribleness of pedophilia. Because when you write it off as a demon, as a monster, you rob it of the actual threat. These people exist in our world. These people are our neighbors. In some cases, there are teachers, there are politicians, there are police officers. They exist in our world. This is a man who, in one way, it is a power-hungry grab for control. But I think there is an aspect of him that wants to recreate society. He just wants to be the head of it. He just wants to be the one that and the fact of the matter is, it's like, I was wondering if we were going to make a Donald Trump comparison. I think the difference is this is an intelligent man. There's purpose here,
There's one thing to just be one of the thugs that wants control.
Mm-hmm.
There's another thing to be, and I think this kind of person is actually more dangerous because,
sure,
because the Gary Oldman character, because he feels himself to be cultured.
Mm-hmm.
I think he feels more deserving of the place of the high place, the high seat, because he has more knowledge, so called, because he has more refined tastes.
Yeah. He can see what is beyond you.
Yes, and I think
someone.
It's one thing again if you're born rich. You're gonna just have that. Well, I'm fucking rich, so I should be number one. Yeah, if you just are a narcissistic, power-hungry person, well, it's just all about me. If you're white and you're racist, well, I'm fucking white. I'm white. I'm rich. I'm male. Why shouldn't I be in charge? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I think the Gary Oldman Carnegie character could tell you that. What fucking books have you read? I've read these fucking books. I know more than you. I fucking took the time to learn chess. Do you even know the complexities of chess? Do you even understand? No, you fucking don't. Blah, blah, blah. And he could go on, diminishing other people because he's so great and he's devoted his time to these finer things type of shit. So he's more of an elitist, and I think he could buy into his own so-called, meritocracy about how he's gone so deep into these tastes and these refinements, versus just coming out of the womb like the world is mine.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting, and it's interesting to watch the people who serve him. The one guy is like, well, man, I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever you want as long as I have basically Mila Kunis' character as my... it seems like he's actually in love with her, but because she doesn't like him, he'll just settle for...
Mm-hmm.
I'll just own her.
I'll win her over eventually, but I'll own her.
She'll learn to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she will, but it's this very... I mean, you can definitely see parallels to our current times in the way that they view. I mean, it's not only current time. I mean, this is fucking history also.
Pretty much women as a commodity, as
Yes,
and
yes,
leaders as, these are the spoils of war. I get
hmm
I get to take, and
correct. Yeah,
there's a lot. I mean, this is a much. Yeah, you can watch it as an action adventure film with the charisma of both lead actors, but you can also watch it as a statement of the condition, the human condition. You can see elements of who we are, whether good or bad. There's a great deal coming on here. I think like one of the things, and we haven't talked about it yet, but um, there's a point in the film that I don't think Eli even understands that he is the book at a certain point. He's protecting the book. And then he realizes after 30 years of reading the book, I read it every night. He has, I don't think he's realized that he's memorized it, which I find fascinating. I mean, that, for me, that reading makes sense. And that meaning gives it a little bit more, where I feel like he's a very humanistic, flawed, and vulnerable character. There can be a point, and it's not explicit, it's not explicitly stated, but it's there. You can be so overwhelmed by duty that you forget purpose.
yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that idea of him kind of. He's married for so long. He's been married to the letter of the law,
Mm-hmm.
and then he comes to realize it's not about the letter of the law, but it's about the so-called spirit of the law. And that's with religious texts, which also overlaps a lot of times with the way that it's the legal and the way that lawyers and legal scholars interpret the law. Though there are parallels and in some cases crossovers in like Jewish history and in Islamic history, where law and religion cross paths or come together or are parallel, all of it intertwined. And then you have interpretations, and how do you arrive at those interpretations? And there is a way to. Some people are only going to look at the outward most shit, and they're going to only say, well, if it says turn right, then you turn right.
Mm-hmm.
You have to read it literally if you want to really, and you don't even really need to understand it. All you have to do is just follow it. And then there are going to be those people who say like, I don't know, because later on it says turn right, but then it says this. So I wonder if that came later kind of speaks to that turn right aspect, and it diminishes it. Does it abrogate it? Does it cut it away? Does it change it? We have to look at this in the context. We have to. So you already get these struggles within traditions, and then you have some certain people that are going to say like, yes, it says turn right, but how important is it to turn right? If you turn right, and I'm just pulling that turn right thing out of nowhere, but like whatever that means. But it's like, what good is it for us to turn right at this point when we do this thing, or we have to pray this way, or we have to do this and this, and you're a shitty person, but you follow the steps? What good is it? You're it's empty. You're following steps, but you're shitty. You're following steps, but you're mistreating other people. You're following steps, but you're still greedy. You're following the steps. You're growing a beard, and you're trying to look like this person from 600 years ago, but you're a piece of shit. No. What good is that going to do? You're fucking wasting your time. It becomes like the Rumi, the famous Sufi mystical Muslim poet, who's one of his lines is something along the lines of, I went to a synagogue to search for God, and I didn't find him. I went to a church to search for God, and I didn't find him. I went to the mosque to search for God, and I didn't find him. I looked in my heart, and there he was. It sounds kind of cheesy, but there's something. If you get beyond the cheese, it's kind of like, Yeah, it's the idea of like it's more than just a book. It's what you take from it. It's you.
Yeah.
Like the book, Eli is the book. There's another Sufi story of the whirling dervishes of Turkey. You've seen like they have these cone shaped hats and they twirl. And it's a version of like an Islamic like meditation. And the Sufis, the mystics in Islam are very much like marginalized. Most people, like in any religious tradition, are just doing their daily shit and trying to be, what they think are just good people, just doing their thing. They have their families, they have their jobs, they have their whatever, and they believe in some kind of higher power. But then you have people who are more rigid, more strict, whatever. And then you have people who are they speak the language of whatever their tradition is, God willing, God bless you, goodbye, whatever. But they do crime or whatever they do. Prayer 5 times a day, one person comes in and into that building where they're doing their twirling and he says like, it's prayer time. And then one of the people twirling is like, we are at prayer. A deeper understanding, a more connected understanding than the literal view. In the same way, like we're doing mystical takes on fucking films versus like, what do you mean? It's that all it is about a black dude with a sword walking through the desert. That's all it is. And it's like, no, that's all you're willing to look at because you're not looking deeper. And it can be that. That's fine. But fucking, as the philosopher said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So it's kind of like, if that's all you want to see is just some little fucking story about some dude with a sword, that's cool. Have at it. This is not the podcast for you. What podcast are you going to listen to that's only going to just watch the movie and that's it? The whole point of getting a second take on something in a different fucking medium is to hear something beyond what you saw yourself to begin with. So it's interesting when people come at it from that perspective. And it's like, there's also an element of what are you afraid to look at? Like, because there is shit that's deeper than that. And this film is, again, something that it has all this shit and it's in, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Of an action movie?
Mm-hmm.
Tons of violence. It doesn't have a lot of sex. It has elements of when Mila Kunis' character is about to be raped.
It has an element of her trying to seduce him.
There's an element of
being forced.
Yeah. Because she's been sent there, and she wants to save her mom. It really does a good job of touching on all these things without stepping outside of the perspective of the character. So it's not, the film isn't preaching at you. When Denzel says a version of the golden rule, and he's like, I didn't live by it. Do for others more than you do for yourself. It's not the filmmaker making that statement. It's not coming off as the screenwriter making that statement. It's Denzel's character making that statement because he's come to believe it. He's come to realize that, as you said, like there's something deeper than just the words. How do you live by it? He hasn't always lived up to the message of his own book, but he wants to try. It's In that sense, it's kind of like Samuel L. Jackson. He's like, I'm trying, Ringo. Sometimes he's the fucking shepherd, you know?
Sometimes we all
he's
are.
the finder of lost truth, you know, whatever the fuck it is, you know what I mean?
And sometimes you're the evil man.
Yeah, sometimes he's an evil man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's fucking wandering the earth, getting into adventures. Maybe to some people, he's just a fucking bum, Jules. He's just a fucking bum. But if his answers scare you, stop asking the scary questions. And he doesn't dig on swine, you know?
Yeah.
Although Denzel fucking will eat anything in this movie.
Kind of have to, right? You know?
Yeah.
I I was on the fence about trying to figure out, is this a great movie? I know it's not a bad movie. Is it simply a good movie? And I think it's a great movie. I really do think that it exceeds. It's a genre movie. It's an action genre movie. But it exceeds that. There are ideas here. There's it's this isn't a film that is just action for action's sake. And that's there with great stunt work by Jeff Imada. And if you know Jeff Imada, he's one of the great stunt coordinators working in Hollywood over the last 40 years. I mean, he was instrumental in the fight scene in They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, a number of you know, some of the Lethal Weapon films. I mean, this guy, when you want it to look good, this is the guy that you go to. And Denzel looks great in these fights. But that's not what the film is about.
No.
And it really, if you go into it just wanted to see an action film, like we said, we're going to beat this fucking dead horse. Yeah, you'll have a good time. But if you want to be challenged, if you want to ask questions at the end, if you want to sit there and say, well, fuck, what does this, is that who we are? And is this what we've become? Is this what could potentially happen? Would this just be rebuilding itself in the same manner in which it's done at this point? There are a lot of questions there. And I think it's a fair and balanced and realistic look at the world that we live in. And it's just, I gotta be honest, it's just very rare that you have something this thoughtful in popular film.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is.
The Hughes brothers, Gary Whitta, I believe, is the writer, and Denzel Washington. It's a collaboration of a purpose. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, however you might view the Bible, there is a handling that is, I believe, historically accurate and fictionally accurate. This is, I could see this kind of thing playing out in exactly the way it is portrayed on film. And I gotta say, I love every minute of it. It's beautiful to look at. The camera work is amazing. It really is. You can see the Hughes brothers' love of graphic novels. It's in many ways it is like The Road. And I think it's just as important a film as The Road. It's very easy to dismiss this as just an action film, but you do so to your detriment. If all you've seen is an action film, I feel like that's okay, but you're missing out on a lot more.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
This is actually one of the best underseen films of the 2010s. I mean, I don't even think neither of us even considered this film for our 2010s episode. And it doesn't speak to the times, but in a weird way, it kind of does. Or at least anticipating.
It speaks to a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap, the element of him being blind, did that seem like a forced fucking twist? Like, what do you think of that?
No, I liked it. I enjoyed it. The only problem was that there were moments throughout the film when it just looked to me like he's making eye contact and he's talking to people. It wasn't like Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman, where there was that look of he's blind. You know,
yeah.
And there's something about it. Like, do you remember when Johnny Cash near the end of his life came out with the video for Hurt?
Of course.
Okay, so I remember watching that video, and I'm looking at Johnny Cash, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with his eyes? And I think I watched the video probably half a dozen times before I realized, oh my God, he's blind. He's blind. And in all that I had read about Cash, I didn't realize that he had gone blind. I know that near the end of his life, he was reading with. You remember that thing that you used in school to the projector, that it would shine a light and then it would magnify and shoot the image up onto a screen. Remember that?
Yeah, overhead projector.
Overhead projector. He was reading off one of those, I think. Because he had to make the words so fucking big that he could see. That was, you don't get that sense of Denzel in this. You don't get the sense that Denzel is blind. In a weird way, it's kind of a cheat. But there are hints throughout the film that he's blind. I just don't think there are hints without a commitment to him being blind. Right,
which is in a sense, I'm like, yeah, it's like a cheat, but at the same time, I also think that's cool, because to be able to have, I guess, to walk the line to where Johnny Cash that's reference that I didn't mean to make. To be able to walk that fucking fine line and to have plausible deniability either way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, to behave as a blind person, but knowing as an actor that you can't be obvious about it.
Yeah.
Which also speaks to the character potentially. Like, the character doesn't want to be obvious to other people that he's blind. So it creates all of these like double blinds, I guess, where it's like the actor knows that he's blind, but has to do it in such a way that it doesn't give away the ending, but at the same time has to be where you go back. Because I did that. I went back and I was like, all right, because I had forgotten like the twist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I for some reason I was thinking that the pages were blank. And that I just memorized the book, but I'd forgotten that it was Braille.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went back and I was looking at scenes and I'm like, okay, at this point he's like, looks like he's startled. His sense of smell, it's always coming up the same way as the blind, the mother character. My grandmother was blind. Basically, I'm pretty sure I only remember, for the most part, I only remember her as being blind. So when I was a kid, but it was also because of eye level, because I was a kid and she was short, but I was short. I felt like she went blind. So it wasn't like she was born blind. So I always felt, though, that she basically made eye contact.
Okay.
Based on like the sound of your voice, she would just basically, and I think that comes from having lived as a person who could see, and then gradually went blind. Versus
that makes sense, yeah.
Versus if you've always been blind, it's a different thing. But you raise a great point with Scent of a Woman. yeah, like Al Pacino does a brilliant job of conveying this motherfucker's blind. Um, I don't know if it's just like using someone who I grew up with as a reference kind of fucks it up because I'm too close to it. So like I don't know because I don't know if I go back in my mind and I look at my grandmother's mannerisms. I mean, obviously, like she can't fucking see, but like she knew where everything in the house was, and could navigate without having to like supposedly like feel around. For the most part, she, and it wasn't like she was being whirling dervish in the living room either. Like she would have her little like paths, but it's a complex and interesting thing to have a twist like this in this film that if you go back you have to kind of try to justify it. But okay, when he's shooting at people, is it after, have they already shot at him so he can hear where they're coming? Like then it goes back to the Zatoichi thing where it's kind of like just a suspension of disbelief. Like this motherfucker's just a badass, and how is it that Zatoichi can slice things that are falling, and it's just you just buy into it.
You sell out to it. I mean, it becomes I believe that his hearing is that good. I believe that his sense of smell and his ability to judge proximity. I think it becomes something. You watch a movie like this and you're like, okay, yeah. Either you're going to believe it or you're not going to believe it. And if you don't believe it, then you have no business watching the movie. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's just like all right, fuck it, let's go. I've seen 16 Zatoichi films. This motherfucker exists. This motherfucker is real. He's out there. He's wandering Japan, getting into all kinds of shit. It's the same way that I believe the Muppets are real. You gotta sell out to it, and if you don't, you're not gonna have a good time. So with me, I'm with you. It's like I think I like hearing your perspective because it gives more validity to it for me. So it's, oh, okay, so he would make that eye contact. That's enough for me to. If you could sit there with your blind grandmother and she's playing Uno with you and fucking you up, then you know what? Hey, I'm on board. I believe, baby. That's the thing for me. I just need a kernel to. I need something to base that belief in when I'm watching a movie, so that Because there was a point where I'm like, man, am I cutting this shit too much slack? Am I being too easy on it? Nope. You have just validated everything for me in that respect. So I mean, thank you for that. Yeah.
That's just I didn't mean to. If only it was that easy to fucking validate your shit. But, I didn't mean to like put it all on that. It's just one take that.
One take is all I need. Yeah.
Well, it's potentially, and we could meet someone tomorrow that went blind yesterday, and they won't make eye contact. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be some kind of exception, but who knows? I'm trying to picture, like my eyesight's just getting worse. My own eyesight.
Mine too. Yeah.
And I'm imagining, like, if I couldn't see, or if I just close my eyes, and if Leslie's next to me and she's across from me, I already, like, someone like that, like, where you know that person, like, you know their height, you know their,
you know the smell, you know the shampoo, there's something. This shit is within us. And we pick up on it. It's we're not even conscious of it. But it's there where it's like you can feel her. I mean, I mean, I've had that with a few people in my life where I was like, oh, okay, this is no, this is there's a certain bond or just I don't know what you would call it. It's just that it's amplified and it's exaggerated in film, but
I mean,
it's enough.
A character, and a character like that, like who can. It it just really speaks to life. Like the other day, I I was walking across our bedroom, and I felt like the faintest like thing of moisture on one of the carpets. Um, because I was barefoot, and then when she came in later, I was like, "Did you spill something here?" Um, and she was like, "Yeah, but that was like hours ago." She's like, "You're weird," but it's just one. It's like sometimes you can like pick up on little things, or sometimes it's like um, little, like you said, little senses, little smells, little clues. It's like a Sherlock Holmes type of thing. Sherlock Holmes was able to put together all of these random, seemingly insignificant little bits of information into a coherent like story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a theory about dogs and how they can tell time. And that's not to say like a dog is like, oh, it's 4:30 right now. What it means is that, for example, why do dogs um, wait for you at the door? And when you arrive, they're there like waiting for you. This theory, and I'm probably fucking it up, but just buy it, accept it. Zatuichi it. This idea is that a dog's sense of smell is so powerful that if you're on a schedule, let's say you have the same work schedule like consistently, you leave at a certain time to go to work, you're gone all day, and then you come back at roughly the same time from your work trip, errands, whatever. There has to be like a consistent thing. Um, you return like clockwork, so to speak, um, and the dog is waiting for you. The dog has, according to this theory, the dog has figured out the concentration of your smell over time, over a period of time, so that it knows based on how like powerful or diminished your smell is, like your smell that you've left behind. It knows, like, for example, in its mind, however it would work, it would be like, oh, Rick comes home when his smell gets to 10%, I know he's coming back. So if it's at 50%, it's like just a little while longer. If it's at 10%, boom, here you are. And it's like, boom, I was waiting for you, motherfucker. You're at 10%. Like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable.
It's interesting, whether it's reasonable or not. I mean, I think it's reasonable too, but what I'm saying is there's something cool about, like, fuck, to be able to have that.
Well, Tom Waits had an album in the mid '80s called Rain Dogs,
Uh-huh.
and it's kind of it was like one of the first. It was like one of the early albums that he kind of broke away from his troubadour kind of recordings, and it was groundbreaking, but it was all over the place. And he named it Rain Dogs because he said, Tom Waits makes up a bunch of shit. Part of the fun of listening to Tom Waits is how much crazy shit he's just gonna talk out of his ass. But he told this story about being in New York and the stray dogs. The stray dogs would have a handle of the city, and they'd know time and places and where they are and in relationship to each other. But the rains would come, and the rains would wash away the scent. And subsequently you would have the dogs would be confused because they couldn't smell anything anymore, or the scent had become mixed up like a soup almost, and it would confuse the dogs. And that kind of goes back to what you're talking about. There's this sensibility that it's that strong, and it guides us. And when you see it in this film, it's believable. It just is. You know, they talk about great blind artists who are, you know, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, Clarence Carter.
Yeah, all those black blind man, blind boy,
Yeah.
blind this and that.
I'm trying to find a white one, like Jose Feliciano. That fuck was Mexican. So, but you know what? There's this idea.
Puerto Rico.
Was he Puerto? Oh, he's probably Puerto Rican. But the idea has always been, what one sense, when you're robbed of one sense, it accentuates the other senses. Which, I mean, imagine how Stevie Wonder sees that music, the notes,
right?
What plays in his head in all that darkness. I mean, it's I would be fascinated to know that. Can't.
Or smell, like,
yeah,
smell is so tied to memory too.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that you could even, especially like if you were to go blind, that you have this history, you have this like repository of sight in your head, but now you would have to reference it through your imagination, through your mind's eye, right? But tied to other senses. So if you were to meet someone and like if you were to like touch their face to kind of get the shape, you would have to like go into your imagination to see that. Or we were watching an episode of that Andor thing, and this one character, the one actor, Leslie and I were like, she looks like someone, and we were like, she looks like a mixture of Halle Berry and Winona Ryder.
That's an interesting look. Yeah.
And you don't have to see it to you kind of get a sense of what that means. You know that person's probably pretty.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
absolutely.
Unless you were to say, well, you would say a mixture of Halle Berry and Winona Ryder, but not pretty. So then that like takes it down a thing, or you know what I mean? Or
that's in itself of yeah, that's an expect. Yeah.
With no teeth.
Yeah.
You could fuck with it, but you could like visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy, this idea that this person has such a mind and such a set of skills. Again, Denzel's character Eli, that he has that inner. Speaking of Stevie Wonder, he has the inner visions. You know, he doesn't need the old sight. He's got enough of the insight, the vision, the perspective. So, Book of Eli. Watch it, don't watch it, just fucking listen to us. buymeacoffee.com/watchRickRamos. buymeacoffee.com/watchRickRamos. This was a request episode by Stephen Palmer. Do what you can. There's no fucking tariff on this on this podcast. There are no ads. There are no sponsors. Only you. If you know some asshole at work who might benefit from this, word of mouth this motherfucker. If you want to keep it as your own little dark secret, you can do that too. Goodbye.